Growing up, I was obsessed with this cheesy TV show called Gossip Girl, although I was really disappointed within the finale of the show. The show built up such a great question of who Gossip Girl is. Gossip Girl was an anonymous platform exposing the secrets of the main characters in the Upper East Side, and it turned out to be one of the main characters, Dan Humphrey. This just had too many inconsistencies with this being the outcome, and the writers seemed to have no idea that they were going to make him Gossip Girl in the beginning of writing the show. On top of that, Dorota, one of the main characters, Blair's maid, had an overwhelming amount of evidence supporting that she herself was Gossip Girl. Some listeners may be wondering why this matters. In reality, it really doesn't matter, but I'd ask you if you have your favorite TV shows that end up with a really big bang, as you can see here, or some that ended really terribly, and I'd ask you if you want to change that if you could. As a young kid, I watched the show at least 5 times, and recently, in the past year, I have rewatched the show to reconfirm all of my prior theories about the show, as my critical thinking skills have developed as growing older. Today, I am persuading you why Dorota, Blair's maid, should have been Gossip Girl instead of Dan Humphrey, due to there being too many inconsistencies with Dan being Gossip Girl, Dorota's actress herself believing that she should have been Gossip Girl, and 3, the show hints at Gossip Girl being Dorota as she has all the information that is posted on the site. In order to really understand how bad of a choice the writers made, let's dive into some of the details on Dan Humphrey's plot holes around Gossip Girl. Gossip Girl actively blows up Dan's life from these posts, often skewing information and spreading propaganda. Dan could have only been Gossip Girl if he was extremely unhinged, and since he's priding himself on his moral compass the majority of the show, it really has no plausible reason for him to be Gossip Girl. A huge part of the early seasons, as well as Dan's obsession with getting into an Ivy League with scholarships, and Gossip Girl posts a story exposing Dan having a fake relationship with one of his teachers that cost her job, his girlfriend, and almost his scholarship opportunities that he wanted so badly. Why would he ruin his dreams and his opportunities? There are many times throughout the show where Dan is shocked by Gossip Girl's posts, even when he's not around anyone and not acting or pretending to not be Gossip Girl. An example of this behavior could be seen in BuzzFeed's 2020 article, 24 times Dan could have only been Gossip Girl if he was extremely disturbed, stating, later in the season, Georgina shows up and causes some major problems for Dan and Serena, especially because she befriends Dan as someone named Sarah. I take it that Gossip Girl existed prior to Dan's girlfriend Serena's departure from boarding school. Dan would have therefore been aware of Georgina's identity and appearance if he really was Gossip Girl. And then he completely falls for Georgina's fake persona when he should be aware, if he is Gossip Girl, what Georgina looks like. It really makes no sense, and there's too many plot holes surrounding it. So now that we understand that Dan is just a terrible choice all around, let's just look at some of the actors' opinions on what the show was. Now that we have a basic understanding on why Dan is just such an awful choice, let's look at some of the actors' opinions on the show's finale. None of the actors actually knew what the show's finale was going to be until they were actually filming it, so some of the actors thought they were Gossip Girl and played accordingly to the show. Susanna Skralski, the actress playing Dorota Kishlowski, who is Blair's maid in the show, believed her character was Gossip Girl and played her character very accordingly. An example of this, in a 2017 article from Refinery 29 titled, "Everyone Knows This is How Gossip Girl Should Have Ended," the actress stated, "I totally think Dorota was Gossip Girl, and I also kind of hoped it would be," she said. "And then I was a little disappointed when it wasn't," Skralski paragraph 3. "And I thought it was funny because in the final episode there was a scene where Mayor Bloomberg says, 'I thought it was Dorota,'" Skralski said. "That was my favorite thing. The mayor actually mentioned my name," Skralski paragraph 9. The fact that the mayor pointed out her name, it just even solidifies her point even more, that Dorota really should have been the choice of Gossip Girl. So the actress herself really believed her as Gossip Girl, but the point against this is that Dorota was a mother figure to one of the main characters, Blair, and why would she betray Blair like that? Blair is by far the most cruel and cutthroat character in the entire show. That behavior has to be nurtured, and it can't just be born. Blair's mother, it's very clear that she has no upbringing with or association with her mother really at all, besides her giving her money. Her stepfather even says that Dorota is Blair's real mother, essentially. And so my theory is that Dorota actually taught Blair everything that she knows about scheming and hurting other people because she is Gossip Girl and she's really good at knowing how to do that. And another argument could even be seen in season 3, episode 16, titled The Unblairable Lightness of Being, where Dorota states, "I wish you to be like me one day, to find right love, good love." This could be argued that Dorota did all she did to protect Blair's heart. The only times Gossip Girl really ever goes after Blair is when she's going after her relationships, and maybe Dorota's just very protective of Blair and thinks that her relationships are toxic, which they really are in this show, and a lot of people treat her horribly. And so when Blair's getting really hurt by Gossip Girl, it could also be seen as Gossip Girl also protecting Blair. So that is also another reason why Dorota could be Gossip Girl. As we can see, Dorota is clearly the better choice for Gossip Girl than Dan Humphrey. When it comes to Gossip Girl's big reveal in the end, there's no legitimate plot holes for Dorota to be Gossip Girl, but there are so many when it comes to Dan. As we rewatch the shows we loved as children, we begin to reassess the writers' choices on the characters that we loved. We develop better critical thinking skills as we get older, and that can be applied to this show, Gossip Girl. The writers lost track of their goal and ended up with a sorry excuse for an ending. Dan Humphrey has no plausible reason to be Gossip Girl besides the writers having no idea what to do with his character and just having to give him some sort of ending. This is why smaller characters like Dorota get snubbed, because rushed endings tend to not focus on every cool plot point and little hints that they give, and then tend to give just the main plot point and main characters good endings. Currently, there are several petitions on change.org calling for the last episode to be rewritten or wiped completely from the episode, stating that if it is not Dorota, then we should never know who Gossip Girl really is. And I urge you to sign one, because being proactive within preserving things that we love close to our heart is very important. These are my references.